Hi guys, it's Blackie. How y'all doing tonight? Okay, I am back from my camp out. Me and some friends went over to Windsong Lake for a couple of days, and that will probably be the end of my camping until fall because I got hot. And they were real troopers, tried to help me out, but I mean, I went down the hill, back up the hill twice, and I had to sit there and go, sound like a dog hassling. So my health, I got to get a handle on it and improve a little bit. Keep all three, good evening. Hiram, good evening. Jeff, hello to Canada. Fishing Golf, hello there to Illinois. Ken Albridge, hello, brother. Hope you're safe out there. Tiny Titan, good evening. Randy, hello there. Craig, hello. Yeah, we've been having waves of thunderstorms coming over the last 48 hours, which has been good because it's kept our daytime temps kind of lower and been kind of nice. I mean, just quote, quote, cold front coming through, which I'm happy for. I'll take every opportunity I can to be under the 100-degree mark. So, y'all excuse me. Let's see. Craig, good evening. Clement, that's why I quit smoking, couldn't breathe. I don't have to smoke. I don't smoke, but it's just walking. I mean, I've drowned twice. I've had pneumonia multiple times. And that last batch of COVID way back when really did a number. And this left lung is really bad to begin with. They wanted to do surgery on it 15 years ago, and I told them no. So it's just like that. I always got a dry cough. I got kennel cough. Terrence, hello there. Jeff, hello to Maryland. Bear's in the house. Hello, brother. Roy, hello to Rhode Island. Sasquatch Jimmy, good evening. Riverbank Viking, good evening to Germany. Thank you for tuning in. James, hello to Columbia, South Carolina. Craig, wish we'd get some warmer days in New York. I suspect you're going to get your wish. Where we're down here, we're just now setting the hourglass. It's 16 weeks till it cools off. Welcome to the muddy, hot, sticky hell of South Alabama. Ooh, yeah, 16 weeks till we cool off. Start the clock. Kenny Howell, good evening. Terry, thanks very much. Glad to be here. 2020, good evening. Justin's in the house. Gray Wolf, hey, you made it. You made it in, brother. Rain the last 3 weeks. I hear you, Craig. Jonathan Frisbee, hello, brother. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, Justin, y'all, I saw where y'all got some storms on top of you, Texas. Y'all are getting them, and it breaks loose and comes across us. So hang in there, brother. Terrence, yeah, I've heard that. I had a friend of mine was talking about he's in West Virginia, and it was cold the other morning. I went, wow, this late in the year and it'd be cold. That's pretty awesome. Oh, well, hello to Chris and Bob in Southwest Ohio. Thanks for tuning in. Clinic, I hope June this year wasn't as bad as last year in Alabama. It was miserable. As years I remember, last year wasn't that bad. The 95, 6, and 7, we had like 40, 50 days during the summer that was over 110 with heat index and 90% humidity. You just baked in your skin standing there. If you didn't have air conditioning, you were in a serious trouble. Oh, Jonathan, I'm sorry to hear you got pneumonia, brother. Get well. Briar Smoke, hello to the Sierra. Supposed to hit 95. I believe it. good luck. At least it's dry, you know. It's hot, but at least you're all dry, which is a good thing. Grey Wolf, I hear you. You finally got your editing software. Good. There you go, Ken. Yeah, cock it and float it over. I hear you. $70 in Fairbanks with frost warnings for tonight. That'd be awesome. I'd trade with you in a heartbeat, Grey Wolf. You can come down here and have our heat index warnings. Terrence and Richie. Been raining here every day for the last week. Oh, Jeff Alexander. Cool, I'll go look. You sent me a picture of 5-inch barrel Old Army. Awesome. Charles Martin. Blackie, how are you? Doing pretty good. Having to stay out of the heat. I'm having to organize it out. I do good. I'm me. But when I'm really susceptible to heat exhaustion. And my body does sweat. That's the good news. After the stroke, we had a real concern whether I could regulate body heat. I do sweat, but I don't regulate well. So I have to watch my body temp. And if I start core sinking, getting too hot, I've got to do something. So you're going to see a lot of videos done in the morning now before it gets hot in the day. And there's going to be quite a few crafty videos that's going to be inside under air conditioning during the summer. I'm sorry. But that sewing video I promised you to make a haversack, that's coming. And I got a couple of others coming. Now that it's going to be, got to, heat of the day, got to be out of the heat. I will be doing those for y'all. So y'all probably going to get a lot more crafty videos mixed in this year because of that. Charles Martin reminds you of New Mexico. John Kennedy, good evening, brother. Yep, Justin, I remember that. Had COPD. Charles Martin, yeah, saying hello. Morgan, hello there. Cool, yeah, Terrence. That's what this is, an old Boy Scout Explorers Scoutmaster hat. It was Explorer's hat. I got this one in like 93, 4, something like that, 95 at the latest. So it's got a few years. Good God, this hat would be what now? 30 years old, wouldn't it? I got it 95, 2005, 2015. Hold on a minute. I got it in 95. Let's just say 95. So 95, 2005, 2015, 2025. This hat's been on my head 30 years. And I got the replacement in the cabinet right up there. So it's looked new. Well, it is a new hat, but yeah. Oh, Grey Wolf, good. Glad you're getting them. Satchmo, good evening. Yeah, Jonathan, I hear you, brother. It saps all the wind out of you. Hope you get better, brother. Praying for you. Okay, good idea. Yep, briar smoke. We were young. We were bulletproof. We didn't care about the heat. I would go and be sitting on a bank in the broad sunlight and 118 head index, sitting there fishing. Not just sweat rolling, didn't care, you know. Yeah, that was 50 years ago. So. Clement, what's your impression of the Alice Pack medium? Good, bad? Okay, the Alice Pack medium is a very good pack. as long as you understand, from the back of it to the center of the bag, it can grow too far out and wants to tip you. So you got to keep your center of mass tight. I carried it for many years, but I'm going to tell you, it never really worked for me because of my body style. I fell in love with the German Alpine pack and ditched my Alice for the German Alpine because because when you loaded up the Alice, it kept getting further and further away, and it got a bigger tippy center of balance away from you. But there are many people that like it and love it. I carried it. I can't say I didn't use it. I did a lot. For like 8 to 10 years, that was my go bag for everything. And so it can be a really good bag. But now people that were bigger than me, I'm 5'10", and I was about 175, 180 pounds in those days. Dan Lutz, who was 6'8" and weighed close to 400, he threw it on his back, and it was the greatest pack ever invented because it looked like a kid's, like a kindergarten bag on his back. But many people use them and really enjoy them, and I think it's a very good pack, especially if you do a little tweaks. If you go look in my ground pounder series, I told you all the tips and tricks I knew about doing an Alice pack, and it's in my in my ground pounder series. There's all the tips and tricks for the Alice pack in there, or that I know of. Oh, cool. Yeah, John, you figured out how to set it up without. You probably had the 2 cross on the outside. Yeah, that'll be nice. John Loudermilk, good evening, sir. Sasquatch, 95 when your boys were born. I hear you. Ain't it, we start looking at years and stuff, and they don't make sense, you know what I mean? Michigan Silverback, good evening. Me and a high school friend of mine, blood brother, Davey Hobbs, were sitting in a restaurant a few years ago, not that many years ago, but a few years ago. And there was a young lady that was waitressing, and she thought David was pretty cool, pretty handsome, and she was kind of flirting a little bit, and David was flirting a little bit back. She went to the back, and I leaned up and I said, "You do realize she was born the year we graduated high school?" That kind of just bust that bubble and realize what an age difference there was. So, River Bank, I prefer the Alice clips. Me too. I use Alice clips a lot, and you can still buy them on Amazon. And so my side pouches and all that I created were to use Alice clips because they're so useful in camp and cheap, easy to pick up, and last a long time. Isaiah, good evening. Yes, the baby bird. Excuse me, Diane. I have Dwayne glasses. Have you used the WC baby bird? I have not. I've used the mini. I have not used the baby bird yet. I've got to hold it. William showed it to me, but I have not got to do stuff with it yet. Anything WC makes is great. Just go. If you're on the fence, buy it. Trust me. Chris Evans, hello there. Terry, will the Ruger Old Army made from stainless steel handle jacketed bullets? If I ever get a conversion cylinder, might be a good thing. No, it will not. The rifling in it is still set up for soft projectile. And what that means is the rifling will wear down extremely fast shooting jacketed. And so you may get 100 rounds of jacketed through it. And then you're going to watch your groups just start doing that. And then you try to go back lead, it'll be 10 times worse. It will wear, the rifling is not hardened for jacketed bullets. And that's one of the reasons you see hard chrome barrels. And the Rugers are not. It was to make a barrel that could take steady diet of hard jacketed bullets, not rust, but also steady jacket, hard jacketed bullets. And it's like taking a hardened file and running it up and down the barrel. The rifling just wears down. It has to be aggressive to grip lead bullets. It needs to be shallow to grip jacketed, and it's wrong thread pitch. It'll just wear it down. You'll end up where all it will take is jacketed and be a trash can lid group at 15 yards, no matter what you do with it. And I've told the story. I had a friend that he had a conversion, and he went to, not a conversion, he went to loading, jacketed into a percussion revolver, 4.51 for a 45 ACP. And he would just ram them into those to shoot. And initially he got really good accuracy. Of course, it digging into the rifling really good. But what had been a tack driving gun in less than 100 rounds was shooting hula hoop sized groups at 25 yards, that it was a Ouija board. You never knew where it was going to go. They were just, and when he finally told me what he'd done, so what can we do to fix it? Nothing. Get another barrel. The rifling's gone. You could just look down the barrel, and it was about half the size it had been. And now it doesn't grip worth a flip because it's all rounded. And so the round ball doesn't grip either. It just did. So what had been a really accurate gun turned into, a noisemaker. He ended up trading it off to a Civil War reenactor who just wanted to shoot blanks in it for a noisemaker. It worked perfectly fine for that. Now let me catch back up. Jerry, I still carry an Alice, but you converted it to a Hellcat. Good conversion. Blackie, what's your thoughts on the 9x3x62 Mauser and 35 Wallene? The 9x3 I don't have a lot of experience with, and 35 Wallene I haven't played with since about 1992 or 3, when a friend of mine had a 35 Wallene, and it seemed to be a very effective caliber. We were shooting with it was hog, and it seemed to be very effective, but I have not shot the 9x3. If I have, I don't remember it, and it had been a one time, but no depth experience I'd feel confident to give you an answer on. Sorry. Oh, cool, John Kennedy. Great. I'll look it up. Gray Wolf, has anybody checked out the Walmart Swiss Tech fixed blade? I have not. Last printed issue, the back with me in summer 25. I saw that. Actually, Tim, it wasn't printed issue. What they're going to do is they're still going to print the magazine, but there'll be no more subscriptions. So they're doing away with the subscriptions. If you read it inside the editor's thing in the beginning of it, he said they'll be just selling them on newsstands. So that's the end of that. And I'm like you. I've got them all the way. I got multiple 3-ring binders over here. There's nothing but backwoods going back to the 80s. Ed Zachary, good evening. Gary Boy, good evening. Bob, how was your camping this weekend? It was a good time, very relaxed, and it got a little hotter than I wanted it to be. We had planned like 2 weeks before, and the weather didn't cooperate, and several things didn't line up, and so we backed up, and then the daytime highs, even though it was only like 90, it was humid, and you sat there a lot and sweated. So I think that's going to be the end of my camping until fall, because I got a little too hot, to be honest. But the guys were troopers. They were there to help me. If I needed anything, they were there. Tim Lacey, Blake, you're like Harley and Jack Daniels. You used to improve with age. Thank you very much. Donald Gideon, good evening. Miss Pam, hello to Florida. How y'all doing? Okay, I'm catching up. Isaiah, Blackie, when are you going to do your new black powder boomstick on Rumble? I have shot the first video, which is the unboxing and talking about it. That will be posting this Saturday. That's all it's going to be, is that one. There's the unboxing, and I'll talk about the gun and it right out of the box. And I am going through the process now of, I'm going to show you how to do a age finish first, because I'm going to have to strip it. There's some rough areas I'm going to have to sand down anyway. So we're going to talk about it in the next video, which will hopefully come next Saturday, will be of the age finish, where we're going to take steel wool and WD-40 and we're going to thin out everything and age it down and make it look a lot older, a well-worn finish as opposed to an antique finish. And then I'll strip it and do what I got to do. But that'll be coming this Saturday on Rumble. It's the game plan, about 1 or 2 o'clock Central Time on Rumble. That's the idea. Big E, hello there. Jim Shelby, what would you recommend for a first-time cap and ball pistol buyer? A Remington. Excuse me, y'all got excuse me. I had to eat real quick. I picked the wife up, had to woof down a Subway before I came here, and I'm sorry. I would recommend a Remington 58 Remington because it's with a solid frame. It's the most like a modern gun for picking up and using, and it's just the best one to start out with. I love my Colts. I'm a cap and ball guy of Colts. I prefer Colts, but if you don't have any experience, which gun, I'm going to hand you the Remington Sheriff model first. And once you build a good repertoire with that and you figure all that out, then go start learning about a gun that comes apart in 3 pieces, you know. So that's what I would recommend. Bay Trip Preacher. Yes, sir, I'm back tonight. All right, Garen. Good evening to Florida. Yeah, that's why I thought it was a 9x3 by 6.2 is a 30-06. Because 7.62 by 6.2 is 30-06. Oh, Hardy, cool. You got you some good brass there. Kodak, good evening. Tim Pierce, where can I get the correct USGI olive drab shade for Foot Locker, shovels, and etc.? Sure ain't from the correct shade from Walmart. Correct. What Walmart is doing is not U.S. Army OD. They're doing 1970s olive that used to be on all the trailers and everything. Remember those olive toilets and everything that seem to be just everywhere? It's not truly the OD. God, what was the original name of that? Hold on a sec. Okay. Rust-Oleum camouflage. And maybe I can get where you can see it. Deep forest green. And that's the number. 279175. Bought it at Walmart, and that is OD green gray. It's kind of a gray green. That's U.S. Army OD green gray. And that's the closest thing I know of at Walmart that you can pick up. And I worked in the paint department at Walmart for quite a while. Yes, I'll catch back. Oh, Grimir, hello to Reykjavik, Iceland. Thank you for dropping in. Prepared for. Thank you very much for dropping in. Glad you like the videos. .30 caliber or 5.56, which would you choose? Of those two, having built and done all of the above, okay, each one has its advantage. If you're talking about a range gun, if you're talking about a hunting gun, I prefer the 30 cal. If you're talking about a mass quantity carry, the 5.56, because I can pull the bolt out, drop in a bolt carrier, change mag, and I'm shooting 22 long rifle for small game hunting. Many years ago, when I built said things, I had a license and I built guns for long range target shooting and for tactical. When you got a AR platform from me, it came with a drop in 22 adapter. And so, because the trajectory of 5.56, 223, and 22 long rifle is the same to 75 yards, and then they diverge. And so you could target practice with it with the cheap bricks of ammo, do all the tactical drills and stuff up close with 22 LR, because there is no recoil of 5.56 anyway, and take small game with it, and etc. And just by swapping a bolt and changing the mag, be right back to full bore, and therefore be able to engage targets at 300 meters, or even to hunt deer with it, and etc. So that's the two of it. See, if you tell me what my job is, and I'll tell you which gun I'm gonna pick. But if it was a blind, just pick it up, and it's gonna be a world go to poo poo, it'll be the 5.56 because of that. Because I can fire a 22 long rifle in it with a simple change in adapter. And that makes it extremely versatile, more so than the 30 cal. Do you prefer metal or plastic ammo cans? I prefer metal. Cow Tipper, hello, Louisiana. Ken Albert, cool. I've heard something along that lines. Tim Pierce, glad to do it. New York, Piedmont, hello there. Edward Kidden, 1972, hello to West Virginia. Mark Burgess, yes, for the 45 Colt conversions for the Rugers and etc. They tell you to use modern ammo. Of all of them, depending on the age, if you had a Ruger Old Army from way back, I would say, yeah, you could do it, because the Ruger Old Army from way back had a 45 Colt barrel in it. They just took the Black Hawk and 45 Colt, created a cylinder that would fit it, and changed the hammer and added a loading lever to it. But at some point, and I can't tell you what year it was, at some point, they got complaints about accuracy, and they changed the rifling to the more aggressive lead-only rifling. And so I don't know. But I do, I've got books from the 70s and stuff that talk about that when the Ruger first came out, it was set up to shoot the jacketed bullets, and it didn't have good accuracy with round ball because it didn't grip the rifle and with the flip. So like the first year, maybe two of production, it didn't make a name for itself. Ruger thought it'd become the target gun, and it didn't, because you could pick up a overseas one and be more accurate. And so the Ruger listened to the feedback and changed the rifling in the barrel, and that made the difference. And so I can't be any more specific than that. Black Powder Militia, good. I'm glad your stock turned out well. Glad it worked. Gary Graham, I'm very sorry to hear that. I hope you and your family deal with the passing. I know how big a loss that can be. I'm very sorry for your loss. Thoughts and prayers for the family. Jerry, Blackie, how was your camping trip a few weeks ago? I went to the my gathering, and the next camping trip was this one. We went to Windsong Lake and just hung out. We put the canoes in. Me and Mike put our different canoes in and got out there and puddle ducked around for about an hour or so. And the rest of the time we just sat and camped and talked. Me and some close friends. It was one of them. We're off duty. We're just hanging out. Ain't doing no classes. We're just hanging out. And so we brought this big pile of firewood out there, and then we didn't need it. We left a big stack of firewood sitting out there. So I guess somebody's going to get to enjoy a fire. Okay, Gear Boy. Gear Boy Forge. Just got me a 1-win hammock and absolutely love it. Can you share some wisdom on the underquilts, please? How cold is comfortable with the blanket, inner in it, etc.? I have used a pad in the hammock. I have used pads in the hammock. My rig that I ran, I had the 11-foot double hammock. I had 2 underquilts, one on the other. Then I was dressed appropriately, and then I had a great big 49 mountain bag, down bag on top of me, and I rode it down to 4 degrees, and I never woke up cold. But what will a single down go? For me personally, my warmth and etc., dressed appropriately, I have rode it with a single underquilt and top quilt and all down to 17. Now, yeah, I did wake up a little cool. Not cold, but cool. Enough where you need to shift and, cover something back up. But 17 is the lowest I went with it like that. Get the underquilt rain protector. It size of your fist wadded up, and it opens up, and it's like a rain skirt that goes around your entire underquilt. That will act as a wind barrier and add about 10 degrees of warmth to it. And it doesn't weigh nothing. So just add it to it and leave it part of it. I've been very happy with mine. I feel very comfortable in mine. And I sleep very warm with mine. Now, putting the pad works well. Depending on your hammock, to put it in and get up on top of it. That's going to add even more warmth. And what I'm wanting to develop is I've got a design to be able to make it self-heating, put hand warmers into the underquilt, and therefore let it heat up. And what I did was I got a little prototype that I put between the underquilt and the hammock. And then I go and put my sleeping bag in the hammock on top of it, and I put the hand warmers in at strategic places in the pockets I've created. And that heats it up. So we're sitting back at the fire talking at last. And remember, when you activate them hand warmers, they're good for up to 8 to 12 hours. So you ain't got to rush. So I go back to the fire and I sit and we talk while it's warming up my sleeping bag. So when we get done and I walk over and I get in and I cover up, my sleeping bag warm, my underquilt's warm, and it's going to radiate heat in the strategic places that I put it for the next couple of hours, at least the rest of the night. And so that's I've been working on that design for about 7 years now, and there is going to be one coming out eventually. If nothing else, I'm going to give y'all the design. If I don't produce it, I'm going to just do a video. Here's how to make your own, and let everybody make their own. But it's a way to add a lot of warmth and just really enjoy sleeping in the winter in a hammock. But we shall see. But 112, good evening to Rome, Georgia. Next week is Blade Show. Bear, next week is Blade Show. You were the one that wanted to go. Charles Nelson, what would you recommend for a beginner cap and ball pistol? A Remington. Here's 58 Remington is what I recommend in 44 or 36. If you can find the 36, get it. If the price is the same, if not, whichever one's cheaper. But the 36 will use less powder and less lead. And if you're casting your own balls, you get more shots per pound of powder, etc. So it's more economic. Justin Coon, dressed appropriately. When I say I am dressed appropriately for 4 degrees, I am wearing a base layer, then I'm wearing a layer of good polypro long underwear, then I'm wearing a long hoodie with a head up. I'm wearing a pair of heavy dadgummit, the big heavy pants that's made out of cloth. Sweatpants. I had a stroke. Give me a minute. Sweatpants, 1 or 2 layers of socks, and a toboggan on my head. You know, that's what I plan to sleep in extreme cold. I am dressed appropriately. So if I have to get up and run over and answer nature's call, I'm not instantly cold to the bone. It never made sense to me that people say, I want this big old sleeping bag where I can lay butt naked in a snowstorm. Okay, you're going to get up in the butt naked in the snowstorm and go to take a pee? Or you want a little bit of weight, a little bit so that you got a little something to work with? Because remember, you're the only thing generating heat. None of these blankets generate any heat. And so it's you radiating out heat. So the more layers between me and the environment, the greater the chance I got to hold that heat rather than just radiate it out. So I believe in layers. Let me catch back up. Jerry, no, I have not. To reproduce the underquilt. I've talked to Jay, and if I'm going to produce it, he'll produce it, or I'll produce it myself. Gearboy, you should be fine. Prepared for. Have you tried any of the BPS knives? I have not. Not that rings a bell. Sasquatch, Jimmy. Was thinking more. Ow, something bit me. Was thinking more along the lines of an impromptu Silverwolf fans of Blackie kind of thing. I hear you. We are going to get back to doing Silverwolf stuff. I promise you guys. But after my stroke, I had to kind of back off of a lot of things. It was just, I had so many irons in the fire. And I tried to just keep going afterwards. And I paid a price for it. And after talking to the doc and everything, it was like I was pushing way too hard. And he said, you need to recover from this. You can't just bully your way through it. Your body is just shutting down. It's not allowing you. Because I'd go to do something, I'd go to shaking like that. I mean, just shaking for no reason. I wasn't cold. And I'm going like, what is going on? And he said, you've had all these life-threatening actions in your life, and every time you just hit the ground and kept going. And the body said, nope, not this time, Sparky. So you got to deal with it. So I had to back off of everything. But we will be doing more Silverwolf stuff in the future. Justin Coon, the Blackie, define what is a base layer. The thin, silky, long underwear. You want to put that against your skin because nylon or actual silk, if you can get it, if you can afford it, that allows moisture to pass from your body, which you cannot help. Your skin's going to exude moisture, and that quote, quote, steam has to go away from you, and it will pass through that into the next layer and not be against your skin, so you feel warmer, okay? And then on top of that is where I put my polypro layer, nice and thick. That's there to take and be like a thick carpet of dead air spaces to hold that heat. Now, if you can get one of the waffle type, that looks like chainmail, whole shirts, put that between the silky layer and then the polypro layer, that's trapping even more, thick as a number 2 pencil, dead air spaces around the body. That insulates you even more. And then on top of that, it's the big pair of sweatpants and the big sweatshirt or sweat hoodie on it. And then I've got plenty of head warmth because you lose up to 80% of your body heat through your head. And I've seen guys lay down and it be just frigid cold and their head sticking out and they're basically in an open tent or something and their head's sitting there. the body's going to work all crazy trying to pump the heat up in there. So make sure you insulate it. Got you, Justin. Ooh, kitchen up. Yes, thermoset will work fine for a base layer, Justin. Ken Albers, no, it is not. I had a co-worker many years ago that wanted to go to a deer camp, and he was ground pounding, and he stripped down to like a pair of little swim trunks and got in this big old huge sleeping bag, and it was about going to be like 14 or 15 that night. And low about 2 o'clock in the morning, all that beer he drank had hit, and he had to get up and go answer nature call. And I had done made the rule: nobody's peeing in camp. You got to go right yonder, which is about 20 yards out. And he woke up everybody trying to run over there, and you could hear him just having a puff and about to freeze to death getting back, and then trying to get back in. You know, he may have been a good hunter, but he sucked in the cold camp. You know, he just threw his sleeping bag open and left it wide open, so it's radiating all the heat that he's stored in it. What you do in the winter is you come out and immediately close it back up, and the whole what heat you generated run and come back. So when you pick it up and slide back in, it's not cold as much. Now he just threw it wide open, ran over there. You know, you hear him just a hassling. He was about to freeze to death. We got a good snicker out of it. Tad, Blackie, when do you think your upgrade on the Red Hawk is going to be released? We're not going to release the upgrade on the strap thing. We're talking right now about the change on the strap. And when I get the prototype to me, because I got to test everything and make sure it is an improvement over what we're doing, then I'll do the video and announce it. Do the official video, but we're still in the designing phases. It'll probably be this fall, if then. But like I said, you know, we're working on it. You know. Brett Johnson, good evening. Yep, you made it. Yeah, Gatorade bottles. God love them. Well, Justin, yeah, jumpsuits being that thin nylon don't breathe well, and so you put it on as a layer. Now, I also have a rain outfit, and I've talked about this in videos. In fact, the loadout video I did not long ago, right before we went to camp, I showed that it's a pair of rain pants and then a rain Adirondack. And in the cold winter, a lot of times I'll put that on over my polypros rather than the big bulky sweatpants and sweatshirt, because it acts like a thermal barrier. It's like a vapor barrier, and will keep me from making my bag a little damp just by breathing and etc. You know, coming through the skin type deal. So. Ken Albers, this is my rifle, this is my gun, with this I kill, with this I have fun. Yep. There are many like it, but this one is mine. Yep. Charles Martin, are you still thinking about doing something like a Wazoo belt? Playing with the idea. You know, I've talked to Wazoo. I sent them a message and said that if they wanted to do a collaboration, because it can be used as a strap for a haversack, that we might. I haven't heard anything back from them, but we'll see. Alternate use for a flask of strong alcohol, aside from drinking a multiple day indoor trip. Me and the friends topic. Clear alcohol can be used to disinfect wounds. It can be used as a fire starter. It can be used in a stove. It can be used as a mouthwash, a wound disinfectant. There's about 80 uses for it. Look up anything you do with rubbing alcohol, you can substitute clear drinking alcohol for the same thing. And whiskey can work too, but you may run into a problem by what's in the whiskey that gives it that color. So, yeah, Justin, the frog talk will work just fine. Paul, hello to Bear, Brisbane, Australia. Yeah, two guys I saw, y'all got a ton, been storm line. The weather pattern has shifted. Those are the storm lines that for most of my life formed Mobile Bay all the way up through Montgomery. That was that line of storms. It's now forming in Texas and going into Arkansas. It's like the whole weather pattern has shifted a couple hundred miles that way. But it's the same stuff I grew up with, but my storms I grew up with type deal, expecting in the South, are now hitting the Midwest and all like that. And we've been relatively dry until this week, you know. But hey, I'll live with it. We'll adjust. Jonathan Cool. Oh, yeah. Trinity. Love my niece. She is so great. And little spoiler, little sneak peek. There is a new model of Red Hawk CONDURA that is en route to me that I'm going to do the field test on and do a video that Trinity is going to be producing. So her little take a little bit on the idea. And so that will be a video coming relatively soon. It's supposed to be en route to me within like a week. So we shall see. Revenant, yes, I'm almost 100,000. It's like right there. And thank you guys so much for all the support. I mean, y'all have really, really made it happen, and I greatly appreciate it. Through the ups and downs, and YouTube changing the rules left, right, and center, where you never know, what's going to be happening next, what's okay and what ain't. Y'all have always stuck with me, and I greatly appreciate it. But I see a lot of channels that would get a lot of followers, and the followers just disappear, and they wouldn't have any followers. And I have stayed pretty regular, and I greatly appreciate that. I truly do. Jerry, trying to decide which bag to take to my basic class in September. Take the Nighthawk or the Scout Pack. Either one are really good bags. The good news is you can put my accessory pouches onto the Scout Pack. They will. You take the Alice clap and you got A strap and A strap. You go diagonal and hook the Alice clip through it, and it'll hold it. In fact, at Pathfinder last year, there was a guy that had just walked over to SRO and bought the Scout Pack, and then walked literally around the wall to our tent and bought a pair of them. He said, it will fit. And I said, yeah. And I pulled the Alice clips off and showed him, just click, click, and they fit right onto his. Even though the strap's going out, that's the point. These are the Ranger Pack, the Scout Pack is going this way, and the loops on the Sparrowhawk go this way. And you just put them together and go diagonal across it. Cross is just go diagonal, and it holds it just fine. And he bought two of them because he was going to be going through a class, and he wanted my sustainment pouches to put onto that to have everything he needed. So yeah, either one is a very good bag. Brett Johnson, they still do make the big Gatorade bottles, but a lot of times you got to go to the convenience stores and look for them, because the ones you find in the grocery stores usually the smaller bottles. Mm-hmm. Oh, Paul, cool. 3 days to winter in Australia. About to prepare my gear for a winter outing. Awesome. Man, if I was a rich man, when I was a young man, somebody said, if you had all the money you ever wanted, what would you do? And I said that I would have a place somewhere in the mountains, and I would live in the mountains of Alabama in the fall and the winter, and somewhere around the mid-spring, I'd pull up and fly to Australia, where there's bound to be mountains and woods in Australia, and I'd go through the fall and winter down there. I wouldn't care anything about summer. I'll just drop down there and come back. You know, beautiful country down there. Okay, Michigan Silverback. Blackie, best way or place to date and ID an old FN high power made in Belgium. Woo! Um, ForgottenWeapons.com, that young man writes books, and I believe he did a book. I know he's done all the French weapons, but I believe part of his thing, he talked about guns made in occupation, etc. And France and Belgium being right there so close together. I would go to go talk to him at ForgottenWeapons.com and tell him what you got and tell him you're trying to find. And he is the big source to know that stuff. And I bet you he can quote chapter and verse and probably tell you the factory it was made in. You know, I at one time would have been very close, but that's been 30 years ago since I got out of a lot of that kind of surplus. But I had a tangent-sided Belgian-produced high power that had been made during occupation and had SS proof marks on it, on the magazine and on the gun. And it came back with a GI at the end of the war. And so I had it for a number of years, and then the collector had to have it. And so every time I said no, he added a zero. And so, you know, I couldn't say no. So. Thayer, do you know Greg Owens? Greg Ovens. I don't right off the top of my head. But if he's got a good channel, I thank you for telling me. I'll go look him up. Greg Ovens. Okay. Mitchell, good evening from San Diego, California. Mentioned the powdered Gatorade. Yes, this time of the year, carry you some either powdered Gatorade or some equivalent of some sort of electrolytes. Whenever it gets this kind of heat, you're going to need it. And so have it, especially if you're going camping, hiking, or whatever. Carry it along with you, even if you don't think I'm going to need it. Carry the powder, and you're going to be carrying water anyway. And my rule of thumb is if I sweat for an hour, I'm going to take some Gatorade. If the activity is going to require more than 1 hour of sweat, I'm going to carry Gatorade, either in powder form or whatever. So that when we take lunch, I'm going to throw some Gatorade into a cup, add some water to it, and drink it to keep them electrolytes up, keep your sugar and your salt count up, keep all that, because you really do wilt in a hurry, and you're much more likely to get heat exhaustion then. So you need to keep that stuff handy and available. Prepper 4, is there a military surplus pack that would work for a bulky winter vehicle kit? Yeah, tanker bag. Call the ladies down there at the surplus place, and it's in the description box, military surplus. That's Kaufman. And tell them what you got and say, I want one, and say, Blackie said like a tanker bag. And it's like a fat Alice pack, but it's not an Alice, but it's a big fat bag. And it's what you see on the back of a tank. And I know they got some down there. And it's perfect for putting on vehicles. That's what it's meant for, to put your gear in there, and you can carry it, but it's to put on a vehicle. And so putting on a big vehicle up in that kind of country, yeah, do that. Metalworks. Blackie, how did early Native Americans make fire when they didn't invent flint and steel? What they did was they did friction fire, and they did stone on stone. So you had a lot of iron pyrite or iron ore and flint or chert, and hitting them together would make sparks. So there was friction fire of either hand or bow, and then there was also the two rock type method, and then there was also the fire plow method. But they actually did very well. Now, if you go look at the book Debry, Debry, Brave New World, and he was a artist in the 1500s that had been hired by the crown to come over to the first colony in America, which was not Plymouth. Sorry, New England. The first European colony was at the Florida-Georgia border over here, and it was French. And they got there well ahead of Plymouth and all of them. And he was there to draw, and you can see, and I think there's a couple of illustrations there of Indians making fire, and it actually shows illustrations from that. So, boy, y'all are writing tonight. I'm read faster, old fart. Yeah, Rocky Mountain Bushcraft. I've seen his channel before. Okay, Mark Burris. I will look in. Greg Ovens. Okay. Let me write that down. I got my notebook. Greg Ovens. Okay. I will go check him out. I'm always willing to learn. I will never tell you that I know everything. The more I learn, the more I don't know, you know. The sum total of knowledge that I don't know would stagger a mammoth. You know, it just, the more you learn, you keep finding new things you never thought of. Everybody will teach you something. Now, some people will teach you a better way to do something. Some people will show you a way not to do something, you know, and you learn either way. So always just accept and listen, and always be a student. Always be willing to listen, even if you think you know everything you need to know about this. Trust me, you're going to get somebody that's going to throw some tip or trick you never heard of. I did the video where I was talking about the U.S. Army canteen cup with the butterfly handles, where you squeeze it at the bottom and it locks. And I had career military guys going, that crap, I was in the Army 22 years and they never showed this. I never knew. So I thought you were lying. I went and dug my canteen out of the storage building, and it went click, you know, and all my years, nobody ever talked about that. So trust me, you can always learn, always be a student, be willing, always be someone who can be taught. It was about the best advice my grandfather ever gave me. Wrong. The first settlement was St. Augustine. Tom. Why was the settlement of St. Augustine founded? Because the French had built a fort. And so the Spanish from Cuba came up. The fort he built was St. Augustine to go take out the French. That's the reason they built St. Augustine, was to get rid of the French colony. That it covers in the book. Everybody's, oh, St. Augustine's the oldest city. Yes, it is. But it was because the French had went and made a place over at the Georgia-Florida border, somewhere in there. And Spanish put Wanda, whatever the guy's name was, in charge of running them out. And so he landed. He didn't know what he was going to be facing. And he made that fort that became St. Augustine. So that's why they wouldn't have built it if it wasn't to run out the French. But in the book, Brave New World by Debry, it details the entire story. When the Spanish came up and they wiped them out, almost, there was a handful of survivors. There were 2 ships with the French, and they put to sea and ran into a little hurricane and got shipwrecked. And the handful of survivors that survived, I think like 15 of them, walked from the Florida border roughly to the Pine Barrens of New Jersey. Let that sink in for a moment. They walked from Florida border roughly all the way to New Jersey because they knew that the English ships would put in there to take water casks, refill the water casks before they're going back to Europe. And it got picked up by an English ship and went back. And that's the reason we got the book, because they survived. They walked to New Jersey from Florida. We are lazy and nothing compared to our ancestors. Riverbank, yes, it will burn quite well. I have put it into Trangias and several of the alcohol stoves. It will burn quite well. The 78%, the 99 burns perfect, you know. Charles Martin, correct. In fact, did you recently hear that in Arkansas they recently found a Viking longship on the bank of the river in Arkansas? This is a complete Viking ship, and it had been buried. Now you got to understand, the Vikings a lot of times, whenever they would land on one of their expeditions or whatever, they would intentionally lay down the mast, lay down, and bury the ship so you didn't see it. You can't see something you don't know is there, see? And then they would go on a overland expedition or whatever. It might be months before they came back. And then when they got back, they just dig the ship up. It'd be fine. And they'd hit home. But this one was not wrecked. It was intentionally buried. And it's something that's only come out in the last couple of months now that they found it and they announced it. So they do have a Viking longship, and it's on the Mississippi River in Arkansas. So that's now leading credence to where they found those sarsen stones out in Colorado, claiming this is the farthest western point, and etc. And it's in the ruins of the Vikings and stuff. So I'm hoping that there'll be a bigger piece of information on that. But I was reading it the other day and was real impressed. I'm looking forward to finding out more of it. True, Bear, like I said. Yeah, but it's like, yeah, they were here. And 20,000 years ago, we had the Clovis people. They were here before them. And then there was even somebody before it. The furthest back at this point that they have found evidence of human activity, and it's controversial, was they found a mastodon in California that appears to have been butchered because the two front shoulder hams are gone. And those that are arguing are going, oh, but you know, this was simply not that. It was da 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 da. The problem with it is the entire skeleton is there, and one of the tusks have been taken out and put vertical like a marker because it was in snow. And so they knew that 12-foot, 14-foot high tusk they could come back to, and they knew the carcass was going to freeze. But both of these two bones and where the meat would have been is gone. And so all the rest of the skeleton is sitting there. So they said, well, man didn't do it. They appear to be butcher marks, not just the usual striations. More likely they cut them two hams off and took them two hams. See? And so that's 130 something thousand years ago. That's something that was then published in Nature a few years ago. So ain't nothing new. People have been here. Yeah, Craig, I heard they had found a couple of mammoths up there. Blackie, have you used the LUBE for rain gear and shelters? I have not. I have seen them used, but I have not. However, if you like that concept of that idea, look at the rain cloak by One Wind. It's about this big when it all folds up, and it makes a very nice one-person open-face tent. A lot better than a regular poncho. It comes around the sides of you, and it'll make, I think it's like 7 feet by 3 or 4 feet. It's front wings that come out, and it's one central tie-up point. So very nice. The LUBEs are very nice. You see them a lot in Europe, and they're very good. Over it came out surplus, excuse me, a few years ago, really big, and a lot of channels went to using them because they were cheap surplus. They were everywhere. Jeff, oh, you are rocking it, brother. Riverbark Viking, glad to do it. Thank you for tuning in. Yep, Tanker Tool Bag would be a good, that's the name, Tanker Tool Bag. Thank you. Jeff, yes, it is. St. Augustine is the longest continually occupied city in the United States. It is. But when you ask why they put it there, why it was founded, it was because of the French. When whatever that Spanish commander was, he was down there in Cuba. And in Europe, Spain got word that France was doing this. Now, here's what France was doing. France claimed this is for religious persecution. Bull. They had figured out that out of all the galleons that were leaving Central and South America loaded with gold, heading back to Europe, only 1 in 5 made it. The other 4 were shipwrecking en route because they were so heavily laden, normally in the Carolinas or something, because up to 70 miles offshore, you got all kinds of shoals and reefs and stuff that you couldn't think you'd be well safe, and they'd run into them. But Spain didn't know that. They just knew that only 1 out of 5 made it. France found that out and said, well, 1 out of 5, they might not miss 1 or 2. And so they took 2 fighting sloops, which we'd call a destroyer today, and went over there somewhere in lower Georgia, and they put a marker up here and put a marker down there and said, we claim this for religious, blah, blah, blah. It was BS. And they set up, and their idea was to watch the shoreline because the galleons would hug the shore going north. See one, run it down, get the gold, ship it back to France, and I don't know what happened to your ship. It must have got shipwrecked like the rest. Spain got wind of it, and they sent that guy in a force up, said, find them, get rid of them. And he was coming up the shore. He hadn't found them yet, and he decided that he was going to put in and set up. And he came in, provisioned, set up a fort, built a fort so he could defend himself because he didn't know what he was up against. And then they started working their way up, and the ship he had with him started going up, got a whiff of the French, came back. They went up on the shoreline side and the ship. When the Spanish were seen by the French, the 2 French ships put to sea, ran into a little squall, hurricane, or whatever, and got shipwrecked about 70, 80 miles further up the coast. Both of the ships went down. The ones left at the little fort they had built got ambushed and attacked by the Spanish, and the Spanish slaughtered a lot of them. When they captured you, they only asked one question. Are you a Catholic or not? If you were not a Catholic, they killed you on the spot. If you were a Catholic, they sentenced you to a life in a penal colony. And so the handful, I think like 15 that actually escaped, walked all the way to New Jersey. But they didn't get rid of that fort. They kept building, and that became St. Augustine. And so it's the longest occupied city. The other thing is that was the beginning of the road that went all the way to the Pacific. And that road today, I-10 follows that route. And the other end of that road was Los Angeles, the city of angels, Los Angeles. And so there was a road all the way by the late 1600s. There was a road that went from St. Augustine, Florida to Los Angeles across the southern U.S. And so when Lewis and Clark were going to go to the Pacific Ocean, there's a road down here, but they were looking for the Northwest Passage, and that's another story. Bill Droom, good evening, brother. Yes, sir. When you decide on the fall date, the fall date is going to be October 15th through the 19th will be my next camp out at the lake, October 15th through the 19th. Hope you can make it, brother. Like you talking about Fort Caroline, French Fort in the 1560s. I believe it was a little before that, to be honest. It was before that. I want to say that this French thing was in like the 1520s or something. At that time, you got to understand, the Spanish Armada and everything, nobody messed with Big Philip of Spain. Nobody. But at that time, what it was is Spain claimed everything. We claim everything from here to there. They never put a marker. And so they'd already come in with the conquistadors, and they'd look, and they didn't find no cities of gold in the southeast of the United States. But they had found a lot of gold down in Mexico and down in Central America and down in South America. See? And so they just claimed everything from here to there. Well, England claimed fishing rights on what we now call the Outer Banks, off of Nova Scotia and all of Canada. They didn't go to Canada. They didn't have the right. Nobody wanted to tick off because Spain had said from here to the end of the earth that way. And so, say from Florida to the North Pole, Spain officially claimed, but there wasn't a marker. And so Spain said, well, look, England is claiming all the fishing rights and what we now today would call Canada. There wasn't Canada yet. And Spain is claiming everything. Could we kind of shoehorn between them a little something? And so that was this. And they were doing it on it was a black op is what it was. They were looking to raid galleons and steal the money for France. And they got caught. Bottom line. That's the reason we don't talk about it. It was lost. It was a shock to me in the 1990s when I was doing research and found out about this. I'm very knowledgeable about the Southeast, and I had never heard of this colony. And so when I was a French reenactor at Fort Toulouse, I became more aware of it. And then when I read the book, in fact, my college had a copy that's been published in Modern Times, The Brave New World, with all these, it's a big old thick coffee table book full of these illustrations by that artist, DeBry, as part of this, and told the entire story of it. That's how I came to know it. So that's why there's a St. Augustine, Florida. So whatever the year was that St. Augustine was founded, back up a couple of years, 3 to 5 years, and that's when this happened, because it was a fort that grew into a city, and they quote the founding of the 70 cities when they got their first governor there. And that little fort had to grow quite a bit before they counted it as a governorship, you know. Okay, I'll get off the history box. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition. Good one, Grey Wolf. Hoorah. Good one. Jerry, yeah, there's a U-boat off Carolina. There's a couple of U-boats in the Gulf down here that they've found in the last 20 years. So, Fort Caroline was destroyed by Pedro Menendez in 1565. It could be that one. I'm thinking it was earlier, but it could be. When does it say the official founding of St. Augustine, Florida was? Which properly it would not be Florida yet. It was Le Flade. Okay. Augustine was founded in 1565 by Menendez. That's him. Okay. Yep. Paladin. That was it then. 1565. I'm mistaken. I thought it was earlier, but 1565. But that's why they were there. You know, 1492 was when they found the thing. So 1500, so 50 years or so after they discovered it, the continent. You'd expect they'd have more, but they'd sent in all the conquistadors up here and there wasn't nothing they wanted. Well, I don't want down there, you know. The fur trade had not got going yet in Europe because that became the big money down here. And the first year after the French founded Mobile, the first year they shipped fur out of Mobile was 300 and something thousand deer hides in 1 year. 300 and something thousand leather deer hides they shipped back to Europe in 1 year. You must be able to just take a stick and hit them in the head. They were so thick. You wouldn't need a gun, you know. And there was a lot of people living down here, yet there were that many deer they could slaughter in 1 year. So, and for many years to come. So, Pam, Mr. Walker wants to know, do you know what El Dorado means? Yes. El Dorado was something that they were told was the city of gold. And more than likely was actually when the conquistadors and the people who got in there had already conquered a lot of the empire, they had been told about these cities of gold where the head of the natives lived, like our Washington, D.C., you know, and they called it El Dorado, which El means the, so it'd be the Dorado. And they said the streets were covered in gold and everything, and they were just feeding a line to the Europeans to go over there. You know, where's El Dorado? It's over there. Just keep going. To get them out of their territory. And so all these expeditions went into the Amazon looking for El Dorado. And it simply was just a massive campaign, really, against the Europeans. And they bought it hook, line, and sinker. You could make their greed make them go somewhere else and leave you alone. The all elusive El Dorado. And when his strength failed him at length, he came upon a pilgrim's shadow. Shadow, said he, where can it be, this land of the El Dorado? Across the rivers of the moon, across the mountains of the shadow, ride boldly, ride, if you seek the El Dorado. I used to remember that whole poem. Gray Wolf. There are grave markers in Pascagoula that are from the 1500s. That was that road going across, yeah. French names, yeah. Be safe, Kent. Have a safe journey. Better one to remember than Jabberwocky. Yes, 'twas brilling. Oh, 'twas brilling and the slime of the slimest flows. God, my blood brother Micah could quote the entire Jabberwocky. Charles Martin, that was Ponce de Leon. He wrote an El Dorado. Okay. Curious, does anyone know what happened to the settlers from Roanoke Island? The famous Croatan. Yeah, kind of yes and kind of no. Further in the Carolinas, inland from the sea, they found later on, years later, a bunch of natives who were obviously a mix. They had European and Indian features. And they were found like 40, 45 years after that. And so it's believed that they may have moved further inland And because Croatan was the name of a tribe as well as another island further over. But it may have been disease, pestilence, a hurricane may have got them and forced them to move inland. And but they were either could have been taken slave and prisoner by a tribe, because the natives held slaves too, used them to work. In fact, in DeBry's book, he was confused because he saw these men wearing women's clothes and had long hair, and he called them, like the European name, eunuch. No, what it was seeing was they were captured enemy soldiers that were being forced to be slaves for 2 years by the tribe that won. So they had to be basically beasts of burden. They helped, worked in the fields, they carried, they did all the heavy labor, and after 2 years they could go home. But they had to wear women's clothes, a big old sack dress, and they couldn't cut their hair in the fancy headdresses of a warrior because they were slaves. So they had to have long hair. And so you could tell at a glance what it was. And so there was a possibility that those survivors at Roanoke may have been pulled in. Now, another thing they don't talk about when you hear a lot about these early colonies and stuff was those drawings by DeBry were used throughout Europe, and they were selling them a pile of horse hoop that every Indian was covered in pearls and gold and silver. You should go to America. You can just club an Indian and be wealthy. You know, and you look at the first colonists coming over, and it's some rich kid's wife and son out to make his money and become. They didn't have any skills. It'd be like a Fortune 500 company says, you can just invest your money and make $1 billion this year. All you got to do is come to the middle of the desert in Arizona. We've got a secret colony going on, but you got to come quick, you know. And it was people that had no skills in survival. And that's the reason these colonies failed horribly, because they didn't know how to plan or do anything. Praying's great. Praying don't put taters on the plate. You got to have skills, and these people didn't. They were looking to get rich quick. It was only a little later when some of the earliest colonies figured out, and started actually getting prisoners, because a lot of people in prison were common people that had skills of building houses, of planting, of harvesting, and stuff like that, and they shipped them over. And that made a big difference in the survival rates. But that first Roanoke colony, you do research on them, and they were somebody's son and all. None of them. They were either religious or they were somebody trying to get rich quick. And probably one of the inner tribes came in and said, hey, this way, and used them for slave labor. It'd be my guess, you know, because it was very common in that day. Okay, catching back up. Yeah, I became insane in those long intervals of horrible sanity. Cadillac had an Eldorado, yes. Cadillac was the founder of Detroit, and the Cadillac symbol is based on his family coat of arms. There's a little tidbit most people don't get. It's not it. It was twas, TWS, twas Brilling, and the slithy toves DE, jeer and gimble in the waddy. There's not a complete word in it, you know, but it was something that came up in the late 1800s, Jabberwocky, and you were supposed to stand up and speak with conviction to convey a story, but speak complete gibberish. And at the end of the story of your performance, the people could read. If you did it well, they could tell the story, know what you meant to say, but you didn't ever say any of those words. It was an intellectual thing that became very popular in the late 1890s among intellectuals, and it was a parlor game, and they did concerts with it and everything else. And if you go to Cirque du Soleil, they speak in Jabberwocky, because their performers are from all over the world. So you may have Chinese or Korean acrobats and European this and whatever. So everybody there speaks a different language. So they do their shows in Jabberwocky. And so they're singing these numbers and everything, and it's complete horse. There's no language. It's Jabberwocky. Gray Wolf, yeah, there were several Cherokee. The word for Cherokee is an Algonquin word, and it means mountain walker. And some of the earliest explorers talk about there were many Cherokee who were light complected, may have had blonde hair or reddish facial hair. And they're probably Viking descendants. And they were taller than the average Indian. And so they could have been Viking descendants from the failed Viking colonies that became their own tribe mixed with everybody else. Yeah, Hatteras. That's right. I forgot the official name of them. But the LUBE, the lost ones. Will, can you recommend any book documentaries on the history of the southern U.S.? Yes. If you're wanting to learn about French history, look up Fort Toulouse. It's a state park here in Alabama. And they sell books there, and they have like a book list. All of those are really good about the French influence in the Southeast. If you're looking for Spanish, St. Augustine at their historic center, they have a list of books that speak of the Spanish side of it. It's very complex down here because it's what time and who's in charge, of who did what, where, what. Ooh, boy, there's some names. It is really complex. This is one of those things I can't answer in a short statement because you got to give me a time period, and I'd have to go pull out of my bookshelf and say, these three books, these three books, these three. And the best thing to do with this would be get me and Grouch together, because me and Grouch used to do seminars for college professors at Llewellyn B. Wallace College in South Alabama. We'd do a thing called History They Don't Put in Books. And when we would get up to do it, we did it several times. The first time, it was mostly students and just people interested in history and a couple of instructors. By the third time we did it, we would be sold out every time we announced, and it would be nothing but college professors coming in, wanting to pay ahead. Can I be in the next one? Because of the stuff we brought up in the history, because they wanted to learn more history down here in the South. And it's what's the time period. The War of Jenkins' Ear. Probably never heard of that one. Tory for a Coin. Probably never heard of that. That was about the loyal to the crown that fought down here in the South at the beginning of the Rev War and changed and became. Jacobite by Birth. That was the Jacobite by God. That was about the Scots who had been in the Jacobite Rebellion, forced into military servitude, came over here in the 1750s to begin doing stuff, and then settled in over here and were ringleaders in the American Revolution. All kinds of stuff. I mean, that'd be a 3-hour seminar just to talk about what to go look at to learn the history. Charles Martin, Blackie, do you watch the Alone TV shows that drive you crazy? To be honest, I don't watch any of them. And I don't do it from an arrogant point of view. I really do not. It's just, sometimes it's fingernails on a chalkboard to me, and I do not want to ever say anything negative about these people. They are doing their best, and I fully support them. But watching it on TV is like, it's kind of like the old, when you were sitting there with your girlfriend, the old black and white scary movie, in the dark, and you're saying, don't go in there, don't open that door, oh my God, that type of stuff. You're yelling at the screen. I can't take it. Pam, Fort Toulouse is yes, it is. It's a great place to camp out, and they got a lot of history there. And it's easily located, and you can get at the end of the road. You got a Walmart and a liquor store, and then you got the fort. So you got an RV park there. You got everything you need in one place. Justin, good night, brother. Sleep well. Right. Thompson. Sir Malcolm, good evening. Yep, you made it in time. We got about another 30 minutes to go. Well, sir, I'm very sorry to hear that, and I will say a prayer for you. I hope it's a new opportunity. The old door closed, but a new one's going to open for you. I really hope it will. Doing pretty good. Tim Pierce, I have had so many people that know me from the history side. When I did Living History and we did the Southeastern Rendezvous and everything, and me and my group, Grouch was the leader of the group. I was part of it, and all of us talked history. And we would sit around a campfire at night, and there'd be 100 people sitting there just to listen to history. We knew funny stuff, we knew sad stuff, we knew tragic stuff, and we would really just enjoy it. And at one time, I had somebody from the state of Alabama want to know if I'd be willing to do a series of videos for the state on the history of Alabama. And I couldn't do it because it required so much traveling, and I couldn't give up my job at that time to go do it. But, who knew what would have happened if I had started doing those and been on PBS talking about the history of Alabama, Paul, exactly. Survival skill. You're picking out a group to go into a wilderness and set up and begin living. Why would you choose bankers and rich kids that have been spoiled their whole life and, preachers that have never been outside of a convent before? Basically, I mean, when you go through the list of them, it's like you would never pick these people to be a colony. But later on, they did learn. And the Greeks were smart about that. The Romans were the best. When the Romans sent people, they knew who was going to be medical, who was going to be this, who's the engineer, who's good with crops, who's good with animals, and they set up, they were ready to go. They had people in depth of who was the primary, who was the secondary. And so that's one of the reasons that the Roman colonies survived so well. Jason, come on down. I hold 2 big camp outs a year. Come on down and camp. Miss Pam, you are the exception to the rule, and you are a great camp cook. And I forgot to get you your hammock. You got to be up here for the fall so I can give you your hammock, the one with the big hoops on it I told you about that holds the mosquito net way up here. I've got that hammock for you. So send me a thing and remind me, and I'll mail it to you, if nothing else. Gene, good night. Well, Gray Wolf, yeah, but now, okay, listen. Here was the genius of the way the Romans did this. a new legion forms. It officially forms in Rome. There's a big to-do ceremony, training, and etc. And then the legion is given their eagle, their colors, their whatever, and they march out. Every day they will march so far, and then they will stop and they will build a fort. Not a camp, a fort. They will cut down trees, dig the pits, make a full fort with internal buildings every day. And then that next morning they get up and they march out. How long did it take them at the end of the empire for a newly formed legion to march from Rome to the actual outer edge of the empire to where they can now start conquering territory and stuff like that? 3 years. So no matter how green they were on day one, by the time they actually met the frontier and they're out of the safe area and they're in the stink, they've got 3 years worth of experience of being a soldier, of being an engineer. Then they would spend so many years on the frontier out there building, defending, conquering, etc. When their 20 years is about to be up, they would then march all the way back to Rome for their triumphant, where they'd be given the big parade, and at the end of it, they would be vetted and become veterans. And as part of being a veteran, they would be awarded land. Okay? Where's the land they were awarded? The land they just defended and pacified for the last 18 years or whatever. So they then march back out, and now they've got wives, they've got kids, and they've got houses, and they've got forts, and they got aqueducts, and they got everything infrastructure in here. And guess what? A new legion is coming, and they're going to relieve you. So they come in and take over operations for you to go back and get your triumphant. And then you come back and you set up here. So you're an invader coming in, and you hear about all these Roman stuff, and they're getting to the edge of your territory, and so you attack these Roman legions. These are young, new legions right out of it, young and everything. You take care of them. Right behind them, the first, what we'd call the frontier of the Rome, is a legion with 20 years experience sitting there in command structure where the commander's still the commander, he's the mayor now, whatever, of retired vets who were fighting for their families and their land and their homes. And behind them is an even older legion. So you didn't see enemy armies plunge in very deep up until they changed all that and they quit doing it. And then like 50 or 60 years after they quit doing it, that's whenever you see the Hun make it all the way to the deck, and they near about Attila and them almost make it all the way into Rome. They'd be paid off to leave because all of that had dropped. All of that building up defenses and etc. were gone. Keep all three. I hope your hand gets better. JB Caudell, how you doing? Okay, JB Caudell, what caused Rome to fall? Rome didn't fall until 1453. When they say in the book, Rome fell in, Rome left, the Roman government left and went to Constantinople. And they didn't, quote, quote, fall until the Turks conquered their territory in 1453. So that's when Rome fell. Rome didn't fall. It just abandoned that part of Europe, went somewhere else. It went to Constantinople, and modern Turkey. I think Istanbul is the modern city today. But they really existed. And the Catholic Church, the last pope was the last Caesar was the first pope. And so you could say it never fell because the Catholic Church still exists. So, quote, quote, Rome, the Roman Empire just got a lot smaller, but it never truly went away, just like England. At the beginning of World War II, England had Canada and New Zealand, Australia, India. They were all the way around the world, And then by 1950, they were just the UK. You know, there are a whole lot now. The size of England will fit in our states now, but at one time they were the biggest empire in the world. Things shrink, times change, but England's still here, but the English empire is gone. You know, so what caused them to fall? One, they stopped being Italians in charge and Italian soldiers. It became people from the outer areas. So these were people that weren't born to it. They were mostly mercenaries that had hired into it, so they didn't have a vested interest in it. And they quit doing it, you know. There. Missed when my fall camp out would be. My fall camp out is going to be October the 15th through the 19th at Geneva State Forest Lake. That's the plan. Good night, Bear. Oh, cool. Washburn Billy did 15 bean soup. That's an old staple. What kind of meat did you put in it? God, I have had it with just about everything you can name, but we used to love to put bacon and hog jowl in it. And if you wanted a more savory or something like that, we'd take leftover barbecue meat or bahia, which is just jowl meat, boil it until the jowl meat completely dissolved, and then dump in the beans and make the 15 bean on top of that. And that's really good. Depends on how you spice it too. Oh, cool. The 410 ammo's coming in. Well, yeah. May and June is when they load 410 and when they make percussion caps. So, guys, keep your eyes open if you're hunting 410 ammo, and keep your eyes open if you're looking for percussion caps or musket caps, because they're in production right now and they should start hitting the shelf long about now. They make them in May and June and they quit making them. So they do them as a big batch. Oh, yeah, well, oxtail, that'd be real good. Yeah, oxtail and bahia taste is very similar. Christopher, it sure does sound familiar, don't it? Sub MOA, I agree. It depends on what he's eating now. But we get a lot of ours come out of pine woods. They're not bad. Now, if you get them out of hardwoods where they're eating a lot of acorns, there's a lot of tannin in it. But if you get them where they're mostly eating around farms, so they're getting hog feed, they're getting deer corn, they're getting whatever. Actually, I like the taste better than I do regular pork, to be honest. It's got a, and those are old schools going to understand what I'm about to say. Remember when you used to get a ham steak and it would be fried in a pan, and in the meat bone there was that little piece of marrow meat right there? That's what roast boar tastes like to me. It's more like the marrow bone. It's got a richer, better taste to it. And first time I got a good hunk of one that was like that, man, I made myself dang near sick. It was so good. Isaiah, Blackie, when do they produce 30-06 and 30-30? They should produce it year round, because those are the two #1 hunting calibers in the United States for many years. Now, it may have changed, but I know from the manufacturers, they said that the #1 and #2 almost always was either a 30-06 or a 30-30 in a deer caliber gun. And so they produced it year round. It's just right now you got to remember we've had all this war going on in Ukraine, and they've been making war production to sell it to Ukraine. And so a lot of our sporting calibers, they've kind of the same gun that the same machine that can make 30-06 can make 308, and so that would be used for shipping. Same thing with the 30-30. That was the same die machine that runs 308, and so therefore they kind of pushed our hunting stuff to the side to make war material. And I'm hoping, like it did back in 2007, that when all of this gets cleared up over there, that you're going to see the shelves fill up in a hurry, and the price is going to drop rapidly on hunting ammo like 270 and all like that. That'd be the time to stock up and get you a good ammo can for when times are tough. Ah, 2020, yeah. Order your ham steak medium rare. I got you. Oh, cool. Made Croatan beef stew last night with smoked pork and sausage. Sounds good. Y'all are making me hungry here. I am going to share this. I've talked to the doc, and I need to drop some weight for the first time in my life. I've always been one that could never, ever. Well, y'all have may noticed in videos that like he's got a little more awesome. In the last 6 months since I had my stroke, I've gained 40 something pounds. This is unheard of for me. I was one of the people that could never gain an ounce no matter what I ate, no matter how desperately I wanted to. And so talking with the doc, it's decided that it would be a good thing if I could lose about 40 pounds. And is this weight or is this fluid? And so because of heart and everything else, we have decided for me to try to lose 40 pounds. So my goal is between June 1 and September 1, I want to lose 40 pounds. Something I've never done in my life is had to lose weight. And so I'm going to be trying that. And so I put myself onto a sort of a diet where I'm getting up, and around lunchtime, I eat a small lunch. And then at supper, I eat a normal meal. And I'm done by 7 p.m. That I don't eat anything else for 14 hours. So between the beginning of this show and 10 a.m. tomorrow, I'm not going to eat anything. I can have a glass of milk or whatever. I can drink stuff, but I can't eat nothing. If I just gotta have it, I'll eat popcorn because you don't get any food out of popcorn. It takes more energy to digest than you get out of it, so it's a net loss. So that's my game plan. So y'all, cross fingers for me. I'm gonna try my best to get there. Caudale Knives, when do you think the war in Ukraine is going to stop? The day the money is cut off. Bottom line, they don't care about lives. What they care about is money. And whenever the money goes stop, you watch how fast it'll just disappear overnight. That Ukraine was where all the dirty money was going since under Obama. They got the place destabilized and etc. That was where all the dirty money was going. That's where all the child pornography was coming out of. According to the federals that were busting it, it was coming out of Ukraine. There was all this stuff coming out of Ukraine. It was a dirty thing coming out of Ukraine. And once they turn the money off where you ain't getting no more bullets, you ain't getting nothing else, you watch how fast it'll just suddenly go away. And I'm betting, from the things I've seen and people I've talked to behind the scenes and stuff like that are in a position to know a lot more than me, I'm betting by July that we're going to have an end to it. And at least a end that we can work with and go for. But that's the idea. Blackie, you lurker. Yep. I hang around behind the scenes on a lot of things. No bread, no sugar, correct? Gray Wolf, I would love to go into the cold and burn off some stuff. The problem with it is I'm about to have, heat index of 110. And so I don't burn a lot when sitting there and sweating. And I just can't exercise. If I try to exercise, I run out of air so quickly. Then the doc got me onto a treadmill, and he's the one that stopped me. Was concerned. And so I've got to lose the weight to make sure it's not fluid gain because of congestive heart failure. I've got to make sure I can lose it. And we've just got to get it back. I know I feel better. And so I've just got to, this is going to be my summer to drop it one way or the other. Hey, everybody's got to learn, and Blackie's learning something new. How to lose weight, something I've never had done in my life. So we're going to do it. Cow tipper, that's awesome. I've got it worked out walking from my driveway to the end of the street and back down. So many laps equals 1 mile. And so I've set myself a goal of doing a half mile a day right now until my breathing gets better, and do it early in the morning. And then, like I said, doing my fasting for 14 hours. I've cut out, not totally cut out sodas, but greatly dropped down. Now I'm drinking a whole lot more water than I was before. And I've gone from like 8 to 10 sodas in a day down to maybe 2. And so I'm doing my best to drop it. So, and lots of veggies, small piece of meat, lots, which I like eating vegetable plates anyway. I'd rather eat veggies. And if I can maybe get, teeth worked on to get better teeth, I will be a terror at a salad bar, man. Lettuce will quiver at the sound of my name. Just give me a chance. Anyway, but so by my way, I hear you. This left lung has been so damaged that I wheeze naturally. And like I said, 15 years ago, they didn't like it. They wanted to take it out. And I told them no, and I just got to do my best and do what I got. I mean, my God, guys, I've survived 5 heart attacks and a stroke now. Come on. 5 heart attacks and a stroke. I'm in my 60s. So I'm going to just do the best I can and keep going, Well, guys, that's been 1 hour and 52 minutes. Thank y'all so much. I missed talking to y'all last week, but I was sitting by a fire with my friends sitting there having a good time. So, Jeff Conley, yeah, that was my question. Could it be around my chest or around my heart? He said, but people store it in different places, but it's a load. And I can tell that it's harder to breathe after eating than it is before. And it's simply because of pressure on the chest. So either way, I got to get this down to reduce the pressure on the chest because the periodontist sac up in there, remember they had to cut it wide open in order to do my heart bypasses. So it's not stellar. And when they put it back in, my heart back in and rehooked it, I think they got it a little bit twisted because when I lay on my left side, I can actually feel it flopping in there against, it's like it's against your ribs flopping like a fish. So I have to lay on my right-hand side and I don't feel it. So it hangs this way, but it's too low on that side. So I'm just weird, bottom line. Correct. Well, guys, thank y'all very much for tuning in. I really, really do appreciate it. And I will be on next Thursday night. If anything comes up, I'll drop y'all a video. I got more videos coming, and we got some do-it-yourself projects coming during the heat of the day. I'll be doing one. So I'm going to try to drop 1 or 2 of those in during the week. And those that wanted to see the beginning of the cap and ball stuff, that will be Saturday on my Rumble account, and I will post a video on Saturday on my YouTube account telling y'all about it and give you the link to it. So it'll be up. Till next time, guys, God bless y'all. Y'all be safe. Have a great day and safe journeys, guys. Good night.